Hi, my name is Jake. I'm 38 years old. My wife, Sarah, is 36, and I never thought I'd be sharing this with anyone, let alone on the internet. But here I am, ready to spill everything, to confess, so to speak, to tell you a story filled with betrayal, a thirst for justice, and a revenge so meticulously planned it would make Machiavelli blush. But first, let's rewind a few weeks so you can experience everything just like I did. Sarah had been off. Not in a bad way exactly. More like she was running lines in her head, rehearsing for some play I wasn't privy to. It was our 10th anniversary last week, a milestone I'd been looking forward to for months. I'd booked a table at that trendy farm-to-table place downtown, the one with the artisanal cheeses and the microbrews I can never pronounce. Sarah seemed distracted all evening. She kept glancing at her watch, even though we weren't late for anything. I chalked it up to work stress. She's a marketing executive, always juggling a million things. But then there was the gift, a vintage record player. Which, okay, I appreciate the thought, but I haven't owned a record in 15 years. It was like she'd bought me a rotary phone and expected me to be thrilled. I mean, who even has records anymore? I tried to smile, to be gracious, but the whole thing felt weird, like she didn't even know me. And that, I think, was the first little niggle of doubt that wormed its way into my brain. Something felt off. But what? Was it just anniversary jitters? Or was something more sinister brewing beneath the surface? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. And little did I know, that vintage record player was just the opening act in a symphony of betrayal. What other clues had I missed? I'm a man of routine. Every morning, like clockwork, I grab a coffee at the corner deli. Mrs. Higgins, the owner, is a sweet old lady who always has the local gossip. Think of her as a real-life, small-town Twitter feed. This morning, however, she gave me this look. You know, the one where they're trying to tell you something without actually telling you, the kind of look that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand on end. She mumbled something about loose lips and keeping an eye on things. At the time, I brushed it off. Small town, remember? Everyone knows everyone else's business. But her words, like a persistent mosquito, kept buzzing around my head. Was this just idle chatter, the kind of rumor mill that churns out stories about alien abductions and government conspiracies? Or was there a kernel of truth hidden within Mrs. Higgins' cryptic warnings? Was my gut playing tricks on me? Or was this the first tremor of an earthquake about to shake the foundations of my life? I mean, Sarah? My Sarah? The woman who still folded my laundry and left me little love notes in my lunch bag?
Impossible.
Right? And yet, there was that nagging feeling, that whisper in the back of my mind that something wasn't quite right. What if Mrs. Higgins knew something I didn't? What if those whispers were the first drops of a storm I wasn't prepared for? The uncertainty was gnawing at me. I needed answers, but where could I find them? Okay, picture this. Sarah, my wife, the woman who considers walking to the mailbox a strenuous workout, suddenly has a gym membership. I stumbled upon it by accident, a rogue charge on our joint credit card statement. Peak performance, it proclaimed, boldly mocking me from the page. Now, I'm not opposed to fitness, mind you. I hit the gym myself a few times a week, a habit ingrained from my days in the military. But Sarah, she prefers yoga and those weird meditation apps that tell you to embrace your inner goddess. So, this gym membership was definitely out of character. But it gets weirder. The name on the account wasn't Sarah. It was Blake Miller. Blake Miller? Who the heck was Blake Miller? And why was my wife paying for his gym membership? My mind, always a stickler for logic and order, went into overdrive. Was this some kind of clerical error? A bizarre case of mistaken identity? Or was this the smoking gun? The undeniable proof that something was rotten in the state of my marriage? The questions were swirling in my head like a tornado, tearing apart the carefully constructed reality I thought I knew. Was this the beginning of the unraveling? Was I about to discover a secret that would shatter my world? The gym membership, that innocuous line item on a credit card statement, had become a symbol of suspicion, a harbinger of something dark and unsettling. And I, like a detective on a twisted case, was determined to get to the bottom of it. But was I ready for the truth? The late nights at the office started not long after the mysterious gym membership appeared on our credit card statement. "Big project," Sarah would say, her voice laced with a weariness that seemed performative. "Crucial deadline." She'd arrive home long after dark, smelling faintly of someone else's cologne, or was that my imagination? And collapse onto the bed with a sigh that could rival a Shakespearean tragedy. I tried to be understanding, I really did. After all, I'd pulled my fair share of late nights back in my military days, burning the midnight oil while planning strategic maneuvers. But something about Sarah's explanations felt off-key, like a melody played in the wrong key. Her eyes, usually so bright and full of life, seemed guarded, as if she were holding something back. And her excuses, once so convincing, now sounded like lines from a poorly written script. Was I being paranoid? Or was my gut screaming at me to wake up and smell the infidelity brewing in my own home? The late nights, coupled with the gym membership and Mrs. Higgins' cryptic warnings, were forming a pattern, a sinister constellation in the night sky of my marriage. And I, the hapless astronomer, was desperately trying to decipher its meaning before it was too late. But what if I was already too late? What if the damage was already done? The thought was like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless and reeling. I needed answers, and I needed them now. But how do you confront the woman you love, the woman you've built a life with, when the very foundation of your relationship feels like quicksand? They say dreams are the windows to the soul, right? Well, if that's true, then my subconscious was staging a full-blown horror movie. I woke up in the dead of night, heart pounding like a drum solo, sheets tangled around my legs like a restraining order. The dream was vivid, unsettling, and clung to me like a bad hangover. Sarah was there, but different. Her eyes, usually warm and inviting, were cold, distant. She was talking to someone, their voice a muffled whisper I couldn't quite decipher. They were laughing, their laughter echoing through the vast emptiness of the dreamscape, and I felt this icy dread creep over me, a premonition of something terrible about to happen. I tried to speak, to reach out to her, but my voice was trapped in my throat, a silent scream swallowed by the darkness. I woke up gasping for air, the remnants of the dream clinging to me like cobwebs. Was it just a dream? A random firing of neurons in the sleep-deprived recesses of my brain? Or was it something more? A subconscious warning? A glimpse into a reality I wasn't ready to face? I tried to shake it off, to tell myself it was just a bad dream, but the feeling lingered, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. What if my subconscious knew something I didn't? What if it was trying to tell me something important, something I was desperately trying to ignore? The dream, like a cryptic message scrawled on a bathroom wall, left me with more questions than answers. And as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but wonder, was this just the beginning of the nightmare? The dream, as unsettling as it was, could be dismissed as a figment of my imagination. But the phone call? That was real, painfully real. I was in the living room, trying to focus on a particularly thrilling episode of Law and Order, the one with the exploding refrigerator. Classic. When I heard Sarah's voice from the kitchen. She was whispering, her voice hushed and conspiratorial, like a spy exchanging secrets with a double agent. "Yes, he's out of town this weekend," she murmured. "I can't wait to see you." The blood drained from my face, leaving me feeling like I'd just been slapped with a frozen fish. See you? Who was she talking to? And what was happening this weekend that I apparently wasn't supposed to know about? My mind, already reeling from the dream and the gym membership and Mrs. Higgins' ominous pronouncements, went into full-blown panic mode. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together, forming a picture I didn't want to see. Was this it? Was this the confirmation I'd been dreading? Was my wife, the woman I loved, the woman I'd vowed to spend the rest of my life with, having an affair? The phone call, like a dagger to the heart, shattered any remaining illusions I might have had. The whispers, the late nights, the gym membership, it all made sense now. But who was this mystery man? And what were they planning for the weekend? I had to know. I had to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. But how? How do you spy on your own wife without becoming the very thing you despise? The phone call had left me reeling. A boxer knocked to the canvas in the first round. I was still trying to process the implications, to wrap my head around the possibility that my wife was cheating on me, when Sarah delivered the knockout punch. "I'm going to visit my sister this weekend," she announced casually, as if she were talking about a trip to the grocery store. "She's having some issues." Now, I love my sister-in-law, but let's be honest. She's not exactly the type to have a meltdown that requires an emergency visit. Besides, her issues usually involve a broken nail or a sale at the mall. Not the kind of crisis that warrants a 10-hour drive. Something didn't add up. The timing, the vague excuse, the suspiciously nonchalant delivery. It all screamed cover story. My gut was churning like a washing machine on high spin. Was she really going to go through with it? Was she really going to leave me here alone while she went off to... Well, I didn't even want to think about it. The thought of her in the arms of another man, the thought of them laughing and whispering and... Well, you get the picture, was enough to send me spiraling into a pit of despair. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit here and let this happen. But what? What could I do to stop her? To expose her lies? To save my marriage? The questions were swirling in my head like a swarm of angry bees, stinging me with their urgency. I had to act fast, but I had to be smart about it. One wrong move and I could lose everything. I know. What I did next wasn't exactly ethical. It wasn't something I'm proud of. But desperation, my friends, can make a man do things he wouldn't normally consider. I ordered a GPS tracker online. One of those tiny little devices you can slip into a purse or attach to the underside of a car. It arrived the next day, discreetly packaged in a plain brown box. I felt a surge of guilt as I held it in my hand. The cold metal a stark reminder of the depths I was sinking to. But the desire for the truth, the burning need to know what Sarah was up to, outweighed any moral qualms I might have had. I waited until she left for work, then slipped out of the house and attached the tracker to the underside of her car. My hands were shaking, my heart pounding in my chest like a trapped bird. I felt like a character in a bad spy movie, all cloak and dagger and clandestine operations. But this was no movie. This was my life. And I was determined to uncover the truth, even if it meant crossing a line I never thought I'd cross. As I drove back to the house, the tracker blinking innocently on my phone screen, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the right thing to do? Was I justified in invading Sarah's privacy? Or was I just digging myself deeper into a hole I might never escape from? The questions gnawed at me, but there was no turning back now. I had set the wheels in motion, and there was no telling where they might lead. Saturday morning arrived, and with it, a wave of nausea that threatened to overwhelm me. Sarah had left early, a cheerful "see you Sunday," echoing through the empty house like a mockery. I waited a few minutes, then fired up the tracking app on my phone. The little blue dot, representing Sarah's car, was moving steadily north, away from the city, away from her sister's house, away from everything familiar. My grip tightened on the phone, my knuckles turning white. Where was she going? Who was she meeting? The tracker led me on a winding route through rural backroads, past fields of corn and dilapidated barns, until it finally stopped at a secluded cabin nestled deep in the woods. The cabin looked like something out of a horror movie, all dark wood and overgrown vines, with a distinct lack of cheerful garden gnomes. My heart was pounding in my chest like a tribal drum, a rhythm of fear and anticipation. I parked a safe distance away, my car hidden amongst the trees, and approached the cabin cautiously, my footsteps muffled by the soft earth. As I peered through the window, my breath caught in my throat. What I saw, well, let's just say it wasn't the knitting circle I was expecting. The scene inside the cabin was like a punch to the gut, a betrayal so profound it left me gasping for air. Sarah was there, all right, but she wasn't alone. And it wasn't just Blake Miller, the gym membership guy, either. There were others. How many others? Well, let's just say the cabin was a lot more spacious than I initially thought. And what they were doing, I can't even describe it. It was like something out of a hedonistic fever dream, a scene that would make Caligula blush. My world, already teetering on the brink, shattered into a million pieces. This wasn't just infidelity. This was something else entirely. Something far more sinister, far more depraved. I don't remember much about what happened next. It's all a blur of rage and adrenaline. I burst through the cabin door like a SWAT team on a raid, my voice a roar of fury that echoed through the small space. The scene inside froze, the participants in this tableau vivant, staring at me with a mixture of shock and fear. Sarah's face went white as a sheet, her eyes wide with a terror that mirrored my own. "Jake!" she gasped, her voice a pathetic whimper. "What are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" I bellowed, my voice cracking with emotion. "What the hell is going on here, Sarah? Who are these people?" The air crackled with tension, the silence punctuated only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. Accusations flew like daggers, each word a wound that tore at the fabric of our shattered marriage. Sarah tried to explain, to justify, to weave a tapestry of lies that would somehow make this abomination acceptable. But her words were hollow, meaningless. The truth was staring me in the face, ugly and undeniable. And then, in the midst of the chaos, she dropped the bomb. A revelation so shocking, so utterly unexpected, that it shifted the entire landscape of my understanding. It's not what you think," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. They're, she hesitated, her eyes darting nervously around the room. "They're my clients."
Client?
What clients? What was she talking about? And then it hit me. The gym membership, peak performance, Blake Miller. It wasn't a love nest. It was a brothel. My wife, the woman I loved, the woman I'd built a life with, was running a high-end prostitution ring. And I, the clueless husband, had been completely oblivious. The drive back from the cabin was a blur. I barely remember it. Shock, disbelief, and a gut-wrenching sense of betrayal warred within me, leaving me feeling numb and hollow. The idyllic life I thought I had, the comfortable routine, the shared dreams, it all vanished in an instant, replaced by a harsh, unforgiving reality. The divorce was inevitable. We both knew it, but it wasn't the clean break I'd hoped for. It was messy, acrimonious, a battleground where lawyers fought like gladiators, their weapons sharpened by legal jargon and billable hours. Sarah, the master manipulator, played the victim, painting me as the unreasonable, jealous husband who couldn't handle her independent spirit. She demanded half of everything: the house, the savings, even my beloved vintage Mustang. The audacity! After what she'd done, after the lies and deceit, she still had the nerve to claim what was rightfully mine. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I consulted with lawyers, researched divorce laws in our state, and learned about community property, equitable distribution, and all the other legal complexities that come with the dissolution of a marriage. It was a crash course in the dark side of matrimony, a world where love and trust were replaced by greed and animosity. The process was draining emotionally and financially, but I was determined to get what I deserved. I wasn't going to let her walk away with half of my life, not after she trampled all over it. The divorce, like a surgical procedure, was painful and invasive, but it was necessary. It was the first step towards healing, towards rebuilding my life from the ashes of betrayal. But it was also the catalyst for something darker, something that would consume me in the months to come. The divorce was finalized, the ink drying on the decree like a tombstone marking the death of my marriage. I was officially single, a free man. But freedom, I discovered, had a bitter taste. The anger, the hurt, the sense of betrayal, it all festered inside me. A toxic brew that poisoned my thoughts and fueled a burning desire for revenge. Couldn't let her get away with it. Not with the lies, the deceit, the utter disregard for our vows. She had to pay. But how? How do you punish someone who seems to have no conscience, no remorse? The answer, I realized, lay in her business. Peak performance. The source of her wealth, her power, her illicit empire. I started researching. I delved into the murky world of online escort services, learned about the laws governing adult entertainment businesses, and discovered a network of shady characters who operated in the shadows. My military training, with its emphasis on strategy and tactics, kicked in. I started formulating a plan, a meticulously crafted scheme designed to bring Sarah's world crashing down around her. It was a long shot, a risky gamble, but the potential payoff was too tempting to resist. I spent hours poring over legal documents, financial records, and online forums, piecing together the puzzle of Sarah's operation. I learned about her clients, her employees, her methods. I discovered weaknesses, vulnerabilities, cracks in her carefully constructed facade. And I knew, with a certainty that bordered on obsession, that I could exploit them. The plan was audacious, complex, and potentially illegal. But it was also brilliant. And I, the wounded husband turned vigilante, was determined to see it through to the end. Revenge, they say, is a dish best served cold. And mine, my friends, was ice cold. I spent weeks putting the plan into motion, moving pieces on the board like a chess master, anticipating every move, every counter-move. It was a delicate operation, requiring precision, patience, and a healthy dose of good old-fashioned American ingenuity. I created fake identities, set up anonymous email accounts, and even learned a bit of coding to cover my tracks. I contacted Sarah's clients, posing as a disgruntled employee, leaking information about her operation, hinting at shady practices and potential legal violations. I planted seeds of doubt, nurtured them with carefully crafted rumors, and watched as they blossomed into full-blown paranoia. I contacted the authorities, anonymously of course, providing them with enough evidence to launch an investigation into peak performance. I knew the risks. I knew I was playing with fire. But the thought of Sarah's empire crumbling, of her facing the consequences of her actions, fueled my determination. I watched from the shadows as her world began to unravel. Clients disappeared, employees quit, and the authorities started circling like sharks sensing blood in the water. Sarah, the once confident and untouchable madam, was now a hunted animal, her carefully constructed facade cracking under the pressure. It was a slow burn, a methodical dismantling of her life, but it was oh so satisfying. And as I watched her squirm, I couldn't help but feel a sense of twisted justice. She had played a dangerous game, and now she was paying the price. But little did I know the game wasn't over yet. There was one final twist, a revelation that would change everything. Just when I thought I had won, just when I thought I had exacted my revenge and could finally move on with my life, the rug was pulled out from under me. Came in the form of a phone call, an anonymous tip, the voice on the other end disguised, distorted, but the words cutting through me like a knife. "You think you know the truth about Sarah?" The voice chuckled, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You think you've got her all figured out? Think again." The voice then proceeded to unravel a tale so twisted, so shocking, that it made everything I thought I knew seem like a child's fairy tale. Sarah's business, it turned out, wasn't just about money. It was about something far more sinister, something far more dangerous. She was involved in a network, a shadowy organization that trafficked not just bodies but information. Sensitive information, government secrets, industrial espionage. The cabin in the woods wasn't just a brothel. It was a hub, a meeting place where secrets were traded, deals were made, and lives were ruined. And Blake Miller? He wasn't just a gym rat. He was an operative, a handler, a key player in this clandestine operation. My wife, the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was a spy, a traitor, a master manipulator who had used me, used our marriage, as a cover for her illicit activities. The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks, shattering the fragile sense of closure I had begun to build. The revenge I had so meticulously planned, the satisfaction I had felt watching her world crumble. It all seemed insignificant now, a petty squabble compared to the magnitude of her betrayal. I had been played, used, discarded like a pawn in a game far bigger than I could have ever imagined. And now I was left with a choice. Walk away, pretend I never knew the truth and try to rebuild my life. Or dive headfirst into this rabbit hole, expose Sarah and her network, and risk everything in the process.